I'd like to apologize for my speech before the members of the Assembly about some confusion. The difference between my amendment that I thought that the Minister accepted was a compromise was that paragraph A was taken out. And paragraph A, it's the policy intention, which is asking for 16 to 18 should be eligible for fully funded education or professional training in Jersey. Reflecting on this, the Part A can be done by the Minister without bringing the long legislative change and can be done quicker and can be done within government plan. When we agreed the amendment, I said, okay, we can have a policy and legislative change in one thing. And if members were considering to vote to paragraph for my amended proposition, it would be paragraph B and C. So the main difference that happened, which would be a compromise, that I withdraw paragraph A, but I do believe it's important to the debate. And I would like to read a quote. It's not my quote. It's a quote from the Deputy Ward blog from 18th of May 23, under the name, "The Slow Death of the Democratic Assembly." What are the consequences of believing that propositions are unnecessary for the government? First of all, we lose the unique democracy we have in Jersey, where non-government, now called non-executive members of the Assembly, can bring any proposition and have it debated within 6 weeks. This is important and unique as it delivers direct democracy for members of our society, and it gives unique and responsible roles to all members of the Assembly. We can make genuine change, or at least attempt to. And remember one fact: the Assembly has primacy in the governance of our island. This is why for me it was important to bring this debate about education, funding for education for 16 to 18-year-olds to this Assembly. It hasn't been debated in this Assembly for a long time, several terms. At least for ministers, including myself, and scrutiny, including Deputy Ward, we're working on it for the last 5 years. And what I found out when I lodged the proposition, when I had a discussion with the members, because it was between ministers and the scrutiny and not in the public domain, there are some facts that members were not aware. It is very complex. It is very complex. It's very difficult to put a formula together, and I know this. I'm going to ask a couple questions. Obviously, in the setting of the States Assembly, it's very difficult compared to the workshop to get the answers. And I would like that members will check, are they aware and what they're thinking about this position on the island? At the moment, A-level students in government schools get the full course of their education. It's an average between £7,500 to £8,000 a year per student funded by the taxpayer. Again, because formula is very complex, I have seen the number too, but it's, if you're taking the total budget of school, how much whole school received a year and how many students a year, we can calculate approximately. It may be a bit more, a bit less, but it's between 7,000 to 8,000 a year. But students doing apprenticeship training only get £1,600 towards the cost of their courses. It's an average 3 times less than the cost of the course. If members are aware about this, maybe yes, maybe no, we call it tracker, and if you would track my written question 24, confirm this. What does it mean that students doing apprenticeship training will get some funds that will be reallocated within the system? Some of them expenses will be paid by the employers to match the cost of the course, and some will be self-funded. In the answer to one of the written questions, 14 students didn't go through because the funding is run out. I'm not sure it's the right situation for Jersey. Vocational student, okay, this is the first fact, and check how much you were aware about these facts, because I also learned it. I would like now members, if they have proposition in front of them or on their computers or devices, to open report to my proposition on page 8. On page 8, you can find a table that I have calculated based on the answers from the Minister to written question 23 and written question 113. And you can see how much funding was allocated, for example, for childcare, number of the students, actual cost per learner, and what is the deficit. The deficit needs to be covered. Sometimes it's covered from the funds, sometimes it's not. And again, the differences in cost per course are linked to the different numbers of learning hours. I'm saying again that numbers are not precise. The funding allocation cannot be accurately compared due to the difference in methodology. In fact, it is acknowledged it's really complex, and we need to find the old jigsaw puzzles. I have seen the numbers, but it was ministerial submissions, and it's a policy in development, so the numbers are not shared in the public, but I definitely know there is a deficit in the funding for the vocational education and apprenticeship. It was also highlighted, not by me, in the actionable agenda. It was independent review of the school funding concluded that 16 to 18-year-old at Highlands College received less per capita funding than the same group in schools, including Holia. This has clear implication for the regard in which vocational education is held compared to academic provision, and it's deeply unfair given overall level of disadvantage among students at the college. The cost of the apprenticeship provision in Jersey is notably apparent and most likely significantly underfunded, being effectively cross-subsidized from other funding schemes within the Highlands College. And this is a quote from the Actionable Agenda Independent Review School Funding that was published previously. And this is the first paragraph A, which actually talking, are we as a states would like to support the minister and would like to make sure that regardless of the path that young people are taking, their education will be funded fully. We can see that most of the vocational courses, they're around £5,400. Now, I'm moving now to paragraph C, because there was another confusion there. What is participation age? Because we don't have in our laws participation age as a term. There is a substantial difference between compulsory education and participation. It's not mandatory. I don't believe in mandatory. But I do believe that the young people and their parents should not be fined, but strongly encouraged, and it's government duty to fund. Jersey is outliner from the UK and most of OECD countries where education and training are funded until 18. Participation age in the UK was raised to 18 in 2013. UK law requires young people to continue some form of education or professional training until the age 18. There are multiple options available in the UK to study full-time at school, college and training provider. And it's full-time education, 540 hours, full-time employment or volunteering. A full-time is counted less than 20 hours a week, and enrollment in apprenticeship or traineeship or supported internship. And this is the legislative change. The education law would need to be changed. It might take longer. We see there is a big and complex way forward, but it is possible and it's important because it's on the cards for a long time. This proposition does not mention reducing funding to A-levels. To affect in any shape or form A-levels funding, it's important that A-levels funding will remain. It is important as academic, yes. This proposition does not propose and open new courses or pay for courses that are not economically viable. This proposition proposes simple policy direction and intention, and if this assembly believes that we need to bridge the gap and make fair that all 16 to 18 will be funded regardless the path that they choose. I believe this is the right time for the Assembly to express their views and to debate provision for the funding and take decisive steps with regards to the education provision for the young people who are the island's future. And I'm looking for the debate. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy. Is the proposition seconded?